Hola, mi gente. Happy Tuesday. Hopping on here to have a discussion around some financial moves that I'm making in 2022. And I just want to share because knowledge is power. And I want to, excuse me, I want to answer any questions you guys might have around my thought processes. So if you haven't seen the title, I hired a wealth advisor, wealth management company to start managing my money. Okay. And so I feel like in the past 2 years or so, I've really, been focusing on wealth accumulation, on asset accumulation, right? Just like piling money into the market. And if I'm being honest, I graduated in 2007, started working right away. The recession happened like 6 months after. That whole time that I've been investing has also been correlated with the longest ever bull market in US stock market history. Basically, that just means that like the stock market has been growing at a rate that's never been seen before up until, the beginning of this year, late last year. Things started to shift. Right. And so I subscribe to like a lot of newsletters, a lot of, people like, Fidelity, they have newsletters for their clients, Vanguard, and all of them have been hinting at the landscape that we've understood these past, 10 plus years that I've been investing is changing fundamentally. And so the things that we got used to, a lot of us as DIY investors, just like go and push money into VTSAX or Total Stock Market Index Fund, like that made a lot of sense for a long time. And it's just like, when the market's doing well, you feel like a fucking genius just because you're investing, right? Because you're just like, oh my God, I'm making money. But now that I'm in a place where I have, set aside a significant amount of money for my future self and also, for future plans that I have to support family and all this stuff, I was like, you know what? I think I've reached the peak of what I'm capable of doing on my own, right? Because when we're thinking about building wealth, the first step is to obviously get to a place where like that's even realistic, right? Where you're like focusing on paying off debt. You are focusing on increasing your income, and then you're tossing all the extra money into the market, via index funds or ETFs or whatever, just so you get into the habit, right? When you start getting to like that first 100K, you're just like, okay, now it gets easier. And so over time, I've been able to accumulate enough assets that I'm like, okay, I feel like I know how to do that part. But what I don't know how to do, and this is where like that humility is required, where like you reach the cap of what you can do by yourself. And then you get to a place where you're like, I need to call in reinforcements. Yes, I did just start this live. So, so I feel like I got to the place at the beginning of this year where I'm like, I need reinforcements because I'm not at the place where like I need to continue to focus on just throwing as much money in the market. Like that's not my reality anymore, which I'm very grateful for. Now I'm thinking about how can I use advanced investing strategies that I'm personally not qualified to orchestrate and make those decisions that are going to make my wealth grow and, be long lasting, right? Because when we're talking about building wealth, like we're not just trying to like, most of us are not just trying to retire and like, empty out the bank account by the time you die. Like you're trying to make this shit last. And especially if you're a first gen wealth builder, you might be thinking like, okay, wait, I'm not just planning for me. I'm planning for a family. I'm planning for my children. I'm planning for whatever. So there's a lot at stake. I say all this to say like, there's a lot at stake when you're really thinking about generational wealth. And so I got to a place where I'm like, you know what? I need professional assistance. Like I need to know that what I'm doing makes sense or what I'm doing does not make sense. And so I've been using the Personal Capital Net Worth dashboard for years. I love Personal Capital. I am an affiliate for them, but I'm also a customer. Like this is who I've chosen to be my wealth advisors. So they have a wealth advisory platform is also like part of their whole financial, toolkit. And what I love about Personal Capital is that they're a fiduciary financial advisory company. So basically what that means is that they're required by law to act in your best interest. So they don't sell any insurance. They don't sell any, bullshit funds. They don't sell any products. Literally how they make money is just by acting as advisors on your behalf and making the best decisions for your portfolio that are going to help you get to your goal. So the way that it started is that I get, I have my Personal Capital dashboard. I got an invitation to speak with an advisor for free. And so we had a consultation call. He asked me what are my goals? I told him I want to retire early, like in the next 10 years. I'm like, I want to be done, done. We'll see what that means. But I want to be able to literally, if I want to, travel the world for 5 years and not work and do all that stuff, that's realistic. I told him, I'm also planning to be able to financially support family. And so we talked about my personal goals. And we also talked about something that I was already aware of, where I knew that my portfolio was not optimized because like most DIY investors, we just follow a lot of generic advice, right? Which is just put all the money you can in the stock market, VTSAX, VTI for the win, right? That's most of the advice that you see, especially in the financial independence movement. And while that's good advice for you to get started as an investor, that is not what people who are, worth millions of dollars are doing. I promise you. Most of them are working with professionals at that point because there are things like taxes. How can you optimize your portfolio for taxes? Not just a Roth versus a brokerage account, but it's taking advantage of strategies like tax loss harvesting and doing conversions and, creating a Roth conversion ladder. Yes, you can do all those things on your own, but it requires a lot of knowledge that honestly, I'm just I don't want to also have to be responsible for making the best decision for my portfolio by myself. Okay. So I talked about all that with the financial advisor, and he came up with a plan that I'm like, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. I already knew my portfolio was way too heavy in tech stocks. And if y'all have been investing in VTSAX or VTI or these generic total market funds, you're hurting right now. These funds have been taking hits. Why? Because they're tech heavy. Because the biggest companies up until this point have been tech companies, right? So your account is skewed. Your account is skewed towards tech. And it is potentially, if you're only investing in VTSAX, you're only investing in the US market. And there's a whole other world out here. There's the global stock market, y'all. And if you're not investing in, Asia, in Latin America, in Europe, you're losing out on a lot of potential returns because you're just not diversified enough. A total US stock market fund is not diverse enough. Even though people will tell you just buy the fund, buy the total market, blah, blah. You're missing out an entire different part of the world. So that was number one. I also knew that, there's other alternative investments like commodities, gold, all these things that I'm I don't know shit about this stuff. Okay? I don't. And I do not care. I do not care to become a fucking expert in every single equity that there is to purchase out there. Because I'm at this point in my life, I'm trying to simplify. I'm trying to do my best to focus all my energy on the things that I do best. And so what do I love doing and what I do best? I know how to make money. So I'm at the point where I'm I would rather focus all my fucking energy on making a shit ton of money and then let the experts decide how it should be allocated, how it should be invested, how things should be rebalanced and changed as time goes on. Because the thing is, the stock market doesn't do the same thing every year. I don't know if y'all realize this, but this shit looks completely different than it did 2021, 2020, 2019, etc. And so if you're not actively preparing and anticipating what are called sector rotations, when the market goes out of favor for a specific sector, which is happening right now with tech, right? And it's moving into energy or real estate. If you're not always optimizing your portfolio at some point you're going to start seeing the loss in returns because you're just not like, most of us are not fucking actively managing our funds. That's just it. You're just thinking like, I'm just going to automate. But there's a reason why wealth managers exist. And there's a reason why holistic wealth management is a thing that a lot of people who are wealthy take advantage of. Okay. So holistic wealth building is not just set it and forget it, max out your IRA or max out your 401k. That is not enough that you need to be doing. When I'm talking holistic financial planning and wealth management, we're talking about insurance, right? How am I protecting my assets, the people I love, from a fucking catastrophe? So insurance is one of those things that also is a part of your overall financial plan. Estate planning, because if you're building wealth, you also need to have a plan to transfer this money over, right? It's not just about like, yeah, I'm just gonna have millions of dollars and we'll figure it out. Like, no, okay? You need to have a holistic plan. And so I've gotten to the place where I'm okay with saying, you know what? This DIY strategy has worked for me up until this point, but now I know I need more. Okay. Yes. And so for those asking who I'm working with for wealth management right now, it's Personal Capital. So Personal Capital has a wealth management arm. They are Fiduciary and they have a holistic approach to financial planning. So I have the ability to contact them for expertise on investing, on insurance, on estate planning. If I want to purchase real estate, anything that I want to do with money, I can call them up and be like, hey, let's talk. This is what I'm thinking. Does this make sense? How should I go about this? Like having somebody that I could literally call up and be like, does this make sense? That's powerful, right? And that's a good thing to have, especially if you're a first-gen wealth builder that has nobody in your circle that also is building wealth, you know, that has multiple six figures invested, that has a business, that has real estate, that has all this shit going on. You can't be asking like abuelita what you should be doing with your wealth because she don't know. You know what I'm saying? So at some point, I think we need to get out of this idea that paying for professional guidance is dumb. No, it's not dumb. What's dumb is thinking that your ego is so fucking inflated that you don't need no help. That you don't need help. Okay? Personal Capital is the name of the company. And they're amazing. I have an affiliate link in my money tools section, YoQuieroDineroPodcast.com /money-tools. And I believe you get something for free. Okay. Oh, and so that's another thing too. So, Kana girl, thank you for the badge. I appreciate you. Okay. So one of the cool things that they're actually offering right now is 6 months worth of free financial advisory, like, stuff. So basically, I'm not paying anything until January 2023 for them to manage my funds. And so I'm like, okay, cool. This is cool. I'm going to give y'all a 6-month trial period. I want to see how you do. And so that's great because it's not costing me any money. And it's also giving me a chance to, you know, test it out without making a commitment. And I asked them also, like, what if after these 6 months, I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I don't want to have y'all do this. I'm going to DIY, because they send me the proposal for the plan, right? They're like, okay, we're going to shift you out of this sector. We're going to buy it into this. We're going to do this and this and this. This is what's aligned with your goals. You know, they ask you your risk tolerance, like what's your investment tolerance. I'm like, I'm balls to the wall. I don't give a fuck. Like, invest in all the shit that makes sense. That's going to make me money, right? So I'm not scared when it comes to investing, but I'm also just like, I'm tired. Like, I have a lot of shit going on and I just need somebody to be like, this is your bread and butter. You need to do this. This is all you fucking do. Cool. That works for me, right? Yes. So Personal Capital is, yeah. So they do need $100,000 for you to start using their wealth management service, which makes sense because, you know, the way that financial advisors are typically paid is based on a percentage of your overall assets. So Personal Capital charges 0.49% on non-401k plans. So if you have IRAs, they charge 0.49% of the overall total of your assets. And then they charge, I want to say 0.79% somewhere, or 0.89% for 401k assets. So it depends on the different accounts that you have. they would basically, that percentage would be determined by your overall assets. Now, there's always like this fee of like, oh my God, what are you paying for? You're paying for expertise. Honestly, you're paying for expertise. And the thing is, you're also paying fees when you have investments in index funds and ETFs. Like everything has fees because there are people who put together these things. Yeah, so the fee is that's a standard across the industry. Fiduciary means that they are required to do what's in your best interest as a customer. So the problem with some financial advisors is that they're actually salespeople before they're advisors. So they make the majority of their commission on selling you products, on selling you actively managed funds, on selling you insurance, on selling you bullshit. A fiduciary financial advisor doesn't do any of that. They're not a salesperson. They don't sell you anything. What they do give you is access to their expertise, and basically you have, a point of contact at the company that's like anytime there's something financially going on, you have someone who can help you, create the strategy of what you want to do. And so I'm paying a fee for them to create a holistic financial plan for me that's going to get me to my goal. Okay. So that's what a financial advisor does. So they're actually doing a promotion on that. Those fees are not up to date. Iborojo, I think that's, yeah. So the fees are actually a lot less than that. I want to say 0.49%. Yeah, exactly, Mom. So we had the situation recently with my mom where a financial advisor came into her job and, was signing up a bunch of people for a good investment. And I found out later that he signed her up for an annuity, signed her up for some bullshit that was like, basically the returns were trash and he was making a lot of money on the front end putting her into this stuff. And this is why it's important, first of all, to ask, are you a fiduciary? Because sometimes they're not. And if they're not, they'll usually won't admit it to you. And then they'll just be like, I'll get back to you, So not all financial advisors are created equal. And so I think it's important to really make sure that find out how this person makes money. If they make money by selling you insurance, by selling you annuities, by selling you bullshit, by selling you anything other than their services for management, they are probably not a fiduciary. But we learned that lesson and we basically told him, like, look, we need to get out of this shit right now. Like, and we're done with you. Thank you. Should financial advisors always be fiduciary? Well, it's up to the financial advisor or the financial advisory firm. Some firms are fiduciary fee only firms, and some of them are just, glorified salespeople who are just here to sign you up for shit you don't need. And so you have to be diligent, right? So asking around, making sure that you do your due diligence, read online reviews, read the forums, companies like NerdWallet, Investopedia, like all of these big companies do reviews on wealth management services. They will review everything from robo-advisors to wealth management companies and all the things. So do your research, right? When you're putting money in people's hands, you got to know, like, what am I paying? What am I paying for? And what am I getting in exchange? So that's why I hired a wealth advisor, because at this point I'm like, I don't want to continuously have to be rejiggering, reshuffling my portfolio. Like, I don't have the energy. I don't have it anymore. I'm like, I just want to make money and you tell me what to do with it. Period. Okay? And that's okay. Paying people for their expertise is something that we can all get it's useful in its place. Because at the end of the day, like, unless you're planning to become a certified financial planner, a financial advisor, a certified financial advisor, there's just so much information and it changes all the time. And to think that you, as somebody who listens to a podcast and reads a couple books, and all of a sudden that shit makes you a fucking expert. No, it's easy to feel like an expert when shit's going right? When the market's going up 10, 20, 30% every year, you're just like, yeah, fuck it. I don't need no help. But what about when shit's not going right? And then you're just like, wait, should I still be doing this? I don't know. It doesn't make sense anymore. So that was the come to Jesus moment that I had. It was like, I feel like I could be doing this better. And so I'm going to see, so we have that 6-month trial period to see if it works, to see if it makes sense. And there's no obligation, right? So if at the end of the 6 months, I'm like, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to do this myself. I can do that. There's no cancellation fees. There's no early termination fees. I don't need to give them 6 months notice, blah, blah. Absolutely. Wealth does need planning, okay? It's not like you could set it and forget it when you're roasting a chicken. You cannot set it and forget it when you're trying to fucking make millions and build generational wealth. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. And I promise you, a lot of wealthy people use professional services because they're too fucking busy out here making money to be worried about what the stock market's doing and all of this shit. Okay? They're not out here, going on Yahoo Finance and being like, well, okay, there's a recession that might be coming. Let me make sure my shit is invested. No, they'll be like, sir, whoever, can you let me know, how is the strategy going to change now that the market's changing, right? What are we doing now that there's a recession? And so the services also include 2 annual calls where we check in and we see what's going on. If the strategy, if we're going to continue it, if we're going to rechange. And I have the option too to also call them up at any time and be like, I don't like this. I want to change this. Let's say I wanted to get into ESG funds or environmental social governance funds. I'd be like, I want to get into ESG funds. Let's make that change. Or it's I don't want to invest in any company that has to do with gun manufacturing or military weapons or blah, blah, blah. You can change where you're investing at any point in time. All you got to do is call them. And, they will handle that shit. So you don't got to go and research, what funds I got to do. All this. There's so much information. Y'all, there's so much information. My God. Okay, so what are you assessing in those 6 months of trial? So I'm basically trying to see if, my portfolio is still going to keep going to shit or not. Because, I could do that myself, right? My portfolio is down, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000 this year. And I'm like, all right. What I did before is not going to work now. And a lot of these, investment brokerage companies have been saying this. They've been saying look, the world is changing. COVID has changed the landscape. Inflation is affecting how we invest now. It is costing more money to borrow, right? And what companies borrow a shit ton of money, especially when they're starting? I'll give you a hint. It's technology. Technology companies flourish in low interest rate environments. Why? Because they borrow a ton of fucking money and it's cheap. But when inflation goes up and it's more costly to borrow, technology companies recede. And that's why you're seeing layoffs. That's why you're seeing hiring freezes. That's why you're seeing Elon Musk being like, you know what? I thought I wanted Twitter, but no, I don't want it because it's too expensive or whatever, or because Tesla lost too much money. So in those environments, we haven't been in an inflationary period like this since the 1970s/80s. And most of y'all were not alive back then. Or if you were tiny little infants and you have no fucking idea what that sort of landscape looks like. Right? So what worked before may not work going forward. And so understanding that, you need to reassess. What are you doing? Are you just going to keep following the generic advice that people who honestly don't have enough experience to be telling you what to do long term? Because if most of your financial advice around investing is coming from financial influencers who are below the age of 35, we've only been investing during a bull market for most of our adult lives. We haven't seen the other side of shit. How do you invest in an inflationary environment? How do you invest when interest rates are fucking 7-8%? How do you invest when gas is $5 a gallon? Or when everything is so fucking expensive? Or when tech is no longer favorable? Where do we put our money? Right? I'm just saying, no shade to the investing influencers, but y'all are babies. We're all babies up in here. Right? And so having that knowledge of a company who's their entire existence is around long-lasting wealth creation It's a valuable toolkit for me to have, right? It's a valuable set of skills for me to have that I don't need to acquire myself. I can enlist professional assistance. Latinx investor, I'm here for it. Yes, we are going to be investing in bonds. We're going to be investing in commodities. I just bought my first I bond. I'm like, yes, to this 9.62% interest rate. I'm here for it, right? So my whole spiel here is to say, just because something's been working in the past doesn't mean the shit will continue to work in the future. And if you feel like you are not qualified to make a decision with this new information, this new landscape that is out here, it's okay to ask for help. I would start by reaching out to a certified financial planner. And if you need a recommendation, I have one in my money tools section. Love her. I've used her. She helped me create the plan to quit my job. We looked at all the money. We looked at all the situation, debt, emergency fund, life insurance, estate plan. We looked at all that stuff. And I set myself up for success to make that leap to entrepreneurship. So now I'm like, okay, now I'm here. Now I'm living my life. Now I need somebody who's going to help me optimize my investments, because I have my personal financial situation set up, right? I have my estate plan. I have my life insurance. I have my business entity. I have my emergency fund. I have my business emergency fund. I got my separate business and personal bank accounts. I got my tax account. I got all my shit straight. The only thing that needed some holistic planning was and is my investments. So that's where I'm like, you know what? I'm ready. I'm ready for that next level. So yes, so Personal Capital is the company. I'm going to give them 6 months to, honestly, I want to see more than anything what the experience is like having those points of contacts. You know, the first thing that I want to see is just like, can y'all do better than me? And yeah, 6 months should be enough. Like, I just want to stop purging, money. I just want to stop seeing my returns go to shit. I just want, can we stabilize? Like, if we stabilize, I'm like, okay, this is cool. Right? So that's what I'm looking for in these next 6 months, is to stabilize, cut off the blood flow. Cut off, because it's a fucking bloodbath out here for, most investors who are just heavily invested in tech stocks. We were all feeling real smart buying Tesla and a fucking Peloton back in 2020. And I was just like, this is bullshit. Yes. TreasuryDirect.com is exactly where you would buy Series I bonds. It's very simple. You create your account. You link up your bank account. You decide you can purchase up to $10,000 per individual. If you have a family, each one of y'all can buy up to $10,000 in a calendar year. If you have a business, your business can buy $10,000 worth of I bonds. If you have multiple businesses, each one of those businesses can buy up to $10,000 of I bonds in a year. And right now, the interest rate up until November of 2022 is set at 9.62%. So I put $10K in I bonds. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put a little bit of this money that I have sitting in a protected, situation where it's doing something productive. It's earning a little bit of interest. Oh, I love that. You can gift. That's right. You can gift bonds, because I remember people would be giving savings bonds to babies back in the day. I love that. Okay. So that's, I wanted to update y'all because I think there's a lot of unknowns when we're navigating this financial space. And so as I was going through the process of hiring a financial advisor, I'm like, you know what? I want to share this knowledge. I want to share this knowledge because there is no shame in getting help. Even though most people will be like, you don't need help. You just need to sign up for my course. That's neither here nor there. Okay. You can learn how to invest from a course, but building wealth is a different animal, honey. Okay? Building wealth, generational wealth, multi-generational wealth, the type of shit that the Warren Buffetts of the world are making, you don't learn that from a course. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Okay? We can teach y'all how to open an IRA, start a 401k, automate your investments, do your initial basic research. But anybody who's DIYing like multi-million dollar accounts, you're probably not fucking doing it right. There's so much shit to consider. You know, like there's so much shit to consider. So that's my rant for the day. I hope you found that helpful. And as always, I will keep y'all in the loop whenever I'm making these financial moves, because I think it's important for me to share anything that I have going on with y'all, because it's all new, right? It's all new to us. This is all a new thing that we're navigating, this wealth building journey. And it's important to be humble and realize when you're out of your league. And I'm like, you know what? I'm officially out of my league. Like, I know how to do that basic shit, but I definitely am not equipped to make sure that this money lasts forever. So how do I know who's a good financial advisor? Any good financial advisor will be licensed, right? It's not going to be somebody who's like, hey, send me money on PayPal, or send me your money on Cash App, or send me a check. Okay? A financial advisor should always be working with a firm or be the owner of an actual registered investment advisory firm. Okay? And they are registered because you can verify this. It's not your mama's cousin who, you know, knows this guy. Like, don't be ending up with a Bernie fucking Madoff. Okay? Like, don't be just handing over checks to people without doing your due diligence. So always make sure that they are tied to an actual legitimate brokerage company. Make sure that they are licensed. Make sure that they are a fiduciary. Understand the fees that they charge and why and what they cover. Understand what kind of fees you would have if you decide to close your account, move to another company. Know all of what it's going to cost you, what you're getting, and who these people are. Okay? And do your research. Like I said, the major companies, the major financial education companies, you know, like NerdWallet, Investopedia, they will do reviews on all of these different firms and their wealth management. You can literally go into Google and be like, wealth management company reviews. Okay? You can go and do that research and see for yourself and shop around, right? Not everybody's charging the same things. And a lot of wealth management companies in traditional places like, you know, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, they won't even fucking talk to you unless you have like at least $500,000 of assets to invest. So that's number one. Like, know what's the bare minimum that I need to have to even be able to work with these companies. Because 9 times out of 10, if you go to traditional wealth management company, they're going to be like, you got $100,000? Bitch, okay, that's cute. Come back later when you actually have real money, right? And so, a company that I think is really cool, that is a fintech startup that is about holistic wealth planning. And I actually interviewed their founder this week. So that episode is coming out later. They are called Freeman Capital. So it's a Black-owned wealth management company that it's a holistic wealth planning. So they will offer you access to, you know, financial planners, wealth managers, and you can start off with nothing. You can start off with $0. Like, if you're in a place where like, you're like, I can't even think about fucking wealth right now. I just need to get out of debt. Like, I need somebody to help me create a plan that's going to help me get me out of debt. They do that. Once you're out of debt, then they start, you know, working with you to start investing. And so freemancapital.co is the company. Very cool. Check it out. I believe that fintech is going to be, and it is the way that we're going to bridge this gap to access of, you know, these higher level wealth management, you know, tools. Because a lot of what has been happening in the financial industry up until this point is a lot of gatekeeping, right? It's called Freeman Capital, and their website is Freeman, Freeman, capital.co. So go and check them out. Very cool company. And yeah, I think that's it for me. So yeah, y'all, I think the message I want to leave you with is know when, like, be humble enough to know when you've reached the capacity of what you're capable of. There's no shade in telling yourself and admitting, you know what? I knew what I was doing up until this point, but I feel like I need help. And that's okay. Stop letting your fucking ego tell you that you can DIY shit all the time. because, you know, I think especially for communities of color, like, we're just told, like, bootstrap it, figure it out. You don't need nobody's help. Actually, you do. You know, there is a reason why all these people exist. And that's also something that I'm going to be talking about in my book. Okay. So I'm going to have an entire chapter on hiring your Dinero squad, because there's a lot of people that you need in order to really be in a position that you are protected financially. You know, you need to have somebody who you can ask big money questions to. You need to have advisors in your team. You need to have lawyers on your team. You need to have fucking professionals, okay? Like, you can't be out here putting together estate plans on LegalZoom. No. Okay? We're not doing that. We are not leaving all this fucking wealth that we are building to some $49 template on a fucking website. That's how you do shit wrong. Okay? Same way as I'm just like, you know what? Stop DIYing your business contracts. Stop DIYing your trademarks. Stop DIYing the shit that has real ramifications. Okay? Like, come on. There's a certain point where I'm just like, you are not qualified to be doing this shit by yourself. Absolutely. LegalZoom will have you out here thinking that you're a fucking genius. And then go ahead and use that document in court, and they're going to laugh at you and put it in the shredder. Okay? Like, stop it. Stop DIYing your divorce papers. Stop it. There is a time and place for DIY when it comes to legal, financial shit. No. No. Generational wealth is not DIY. There's a process. There's a system. There's a fucking team you have to have behind you. Okay? So thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the staying on here. I want to get this message out to as many people as possible. Like, yo, yes, you can start on your own. Yes, you can learn the basics. Yes, you can get to, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of wealth on your own, and you'll probably be okay. But when you think you're talking about generational wealth, you need a team. There's too much at stake. So, you all know I keep it real. Always 100.